welcome on back to the Fourth and 30 podcast. This week we got some cool things for you, but we just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. It's still free, same as it was the couple weeks before. But we appreciate all of the comments and likes we get, so keep that stuff up. And congratulations to Dakota Moore right off the top for winning the bracket challenge for us. She whooped everybody's butt. So next year we'll
Two
have to have
years
a
in a
special
row.
guest.
2 years in a row.
Next year we'll have to have a special guest, and I think I know who can get her on the podcast. But anyway, we are going to talk about the Final Four first. There was one good game and one stinker of a game. So I don't know that we need to spend too much time on Baylor and Houston, but if you guys have any thoughts on that, you can. But mainly, probably Gonzaga UCLA is going to take up the bulk of this. So who do you got?
I mean, it was what it was. One of the greatest college basketball games on as big a stage as you can have of all time. From going to overtime to Jucevic falling his own shot and putting it back to tie it up to Suggs hitting a game winner. It doesn't get any better than that. And the game, I mean, that's just one small part of it. The game was back and forth all game. You got the big man Timmy showing why he's got as good a footwork as anyone I've ever seen play down low in college basketball, dominating all game, and then Suggs finishing it off for Gonzaga. Pretty much a storyline of Gonzaga this year. It was a great game, though.
Yeah, that was an incredible shot that'll go down in history. Good. I mean, big players make big shots like that, and there's not many guys as good as Suggs right now in college basketball. UCLA played that really well to be even in that spot as an 11 seed. You got to give them props for that. They had every chance to win that game against, arguably one of the best college basketball teams we've seen in a long time. They're maybe not historically great, but they're a great team. So I was pulling for UCLA there, which, Gonzaga came through in the clutch. But what a game! Like Kelsey said, one of the greatest games ever.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs, the freshman, with the big shot. That's what we all watch March Madness for. That was a fantastic game. UCLA proved they belong, and that was fun to see. It's fun to see UCLA back in the mix. Hopefully they can stay there and it wasn't just a fluke. And Baylor just kind of breezed by Houston. And, Baylor, their run to the championship this year, they didn't, they were one of the top teams all year, but I don't think got the credit that most teams that have runs like that do. And so I think they were a little, had something to prove there, and it showed in leading in the championship game. I mean, you got Gonzaga, who just came off a high emotional win. They hit a game-winning shot almost from half court versus Baylor, who kind of breezed in. I think you saw that in the first 10 minutes of that championship game. Baylor was first to the ball. They were getting offensive rebounds, and they were just outworking them. The defense they played was, incredible. And, I think Baylor deserves some credit. Watching them play that championship game, that was one of the, they were looking like one of the best teams in college I've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they never really got that credit. But I would stack them up with a lot of teams from the past. Just the way they played. Mitchell's defense was amazing. Butler on the offensive end, and Vital down low, his rebounding and his positioning. So I was just overall, I was impressed by Baylor.
I'm going to go back and I'm going to double down on what I said a podcast or two ago. And I hate to say it because he is a great coach, but Mark Few does not win the big games. Now, that game was not Mark Few's fault at all. The freshmen crapped the bed, in my opinion. They weren't, after that big, you always hear of a big game hangover. That was about as big game of hangover as it could have been. You hit that gigantic shot against UCLA, and Timmy was just carrying them all through the UCLA game. And they get to that Baylor game, and Suggs and Timmy look like it was their first college game for the first 10, 15 minutes of that game. So I feel like the freshmen let Mark Few down there, but you can't hold the freshmen accountable, really, I don't think. because once again, they're 18, 19-year-old kids on the biggest stage in college basketball, playing against an elite team. I mean, like Kyler said, Baylor is really, really good. And then coming off that win against UCLA, for as dramatic as it was, it's just hard to get young kids mentally right. And I think they might have been better off playing against thousands and thousands of real fans instead of thousands and thousands of cardboard fans. That you would think the cardboard fans would be better off for freshmen or younger kids, because you don't have all the noise and everything going on and the emotion of the crowd. But some of those kids probably played against some really big crowd, or played with some really big crowds in high school, and they were probably used to that kind of noise, and so it might have shook them a little bit to not have that noise. But once again, that hurts. It hurts Mark Few's resume again to lose a big game, but that was entirely not on Mark Few at all.
So one thing, we kind of already went to the championship game, but one thing I do want to mention is Johnny Juzang. Dude had 29 points on 12 of 18 shooting as a guard in that game against Gonzaga. Dude played out of his mind, and he's played like that all year. It's not like it was his only game where that dude is for real, and he got a chance to show it there. But as far as the championship game goes, yeah, Baylor. Baylor, I told you guys I thought they were the second best team in the country all year. Obviously, they proved that they can beat the best team in the country all year. They were playing suffocating team defense early, and that got Gonzaga out of rhythm. Baylor can shoot the ball. They were in position to get rebounds. Baylor dominated pretty much every aspect of that game for the first 20 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then Gonzaga couldn't catch up.
Yeah, so you guys brought it up a couple weeks ago, and I think it did play a role, and Cody just kind of brought it up now. This COVID year, and it's been weird in college basketball and all that, seniors are going to be what gets you there. And so Baylor, Kyler kind of mentioned it, that Mark Vital down low, he just, board man gets paid, and, he was playing like that. He had 8 offensive rebounds. Baylor, for the game, had like 16 offensive rebounds, and that gave them 18 extra shots. Like, that's crazy numbers.
Yeah.
So, any time that you can outboard somebody that heavy, you're not winning that game. Like, I don't even have to go to the stats to look up if you get out rebounded 38-17 who won that game. It just doesn't happen.
I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but you're right. If you win the rebounding battle, teams win like 33% of the games, no matter what, if they win the rebounding. Same with assists and turnovers. And I don't know the official assist or turnover stats.
Turnovers was 14 for Gonzaga and 9 for Baylor,
yeah.
So they won that.
And Baylor was moving the ball extremely well. I'm sure they led in assists as well. Those are the 3 key factors in basketball. And when you win all 3 of them, Gonzaga would have had to play the perfect game to win.
Well, and turnovers can be kind of a misleading stat somewhat, in that, dead ball turnovers aren't as bad as live ball turnovers. Baylor was turning him over at the 3-point line and getting runouts on it, so that hurts. But I'm going to go back to a couple things. I said if North Carolina beat Wisconsin, Baylor would have trouble in the second round during the tournament preview. I will retract that statement right now, because Gonzaga was not ready for the physicality of Baylor. And I also said this during the tournament preview, that Gonzaga's conference schedule would come back to catch up to him, and I believe it did, because they're not used to playing that level of physicality, that level of intense basketball. I mean, they're just more athletic, they're more physical than everybody in their conference. It's almost kind of like, you can kind of compare it to a guy like, I don't know, can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but guys that are gifted athletically growing up don't have to work on the intangibles as much of their game. That kind of hurts them. So you can kind of compare it to that, and I think that came back to bite them, because for the first 10 minutes of that game, they were shell-shocked.
Well, I honestly think defense. It's more like, in my opinion, it's more like Gonzaga doesn't know what it's like to have to play a tough game every game. Like, they have games where they can take games off, and they had to play 6 tough games in a row, and they're not used to it. Baylor played in the Big 12. pretty much every night's a tough game. It's a battle,
and that goes.
Gonzaga just wasn't ready to play 6 tough games in a row.
And that goes to show why the Pac-12 did so well too. Is look at all the teams that did well in that, and now you know why they all had mediocre records. That conference was stacked, and nobody knew it. And UCLA proved it right there. They were
beat up on each other.
Yeah, they just beat up on each other when they were all.
Because they play at midnight when the world's asleep.
Nobody's watching. Yeah.
Gonzaga's got to go. Gonzaga should enter the Pac-12. They need to get out of that West Coast Conference.
But they even play football at Gonzaga.
They've reached the plateau of what they're going to be.
Yeah. So this is like the second time in 4 or 5 years they've made the championship game and lost it.
The last time was against North Carolina in 17. 16,
yeah. So in 4 or 5 years. Wouldn't be 16 because that leads into one of my next points. So Jalen Suggs hit that buzzer beater, right? So does it devalue his buzzer beater that Gonzaga didn't go on to win that game? So you look at some of the best buzzer beaters in history. You've got hold on, Dookie. You've got Chris Jenkins, 2016 over UNC to win the title. You've got
that was good.
North Carolina.
According to ESPN, it was 2016. But Lorenzo Charles.
17's when North Carolina beat Gonzaga. I'm saying because of the next year.
And you got Lorenzo Charles in 1983, NC State, the big Jimmy V moment where he runs out. And then, Christian Laettner, which that was in the Elite Eight, but they went on to win the title. So, if Duke would have lost in the Final Four, would anybody remember Christian Laettner's shot? So,
not as much, definitely not.
20 years down the road, is this Jalen Suggs shot going to stick with anybody? Yes, it was probably one of the longer buzzer beaters in tournament history. But
yeah, it'll stick with people. I think there's a very small difference in not winning. I don't think it's that big. It's still going to be played in videos. I mean, you're still going to see it. But come to think about that, the Christian Laettner one, Grant Hill was calling the game, and he was on that team, and he talked about how after Christian Laettner hit that shot in the Elite Eight, the next game they came out flat. Now they found a way to win that game, but back to the point about the how high emotion of that game was, that could have played into the rough start for Gonzaga.
So I
think people still remember it.
I think it will be played in videos and stuff, but I don't think it'll be remembered as much as it would if they would have won the national championship. And one reason why I say that is because does anyone remember Bryce Drew's buzzer beater? It gets played in videos, but they weren't a team that won the national championship.
Wasn't that in the first round though?
Yeah, it was, but it was a great buzzer beater.
But there is a large difference between first round and Final Four.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it will be remembered, and I think it'll be played in videos. I don't think it will be remembered like it would have if they had won the national championship.
There's a ton of buzzer beaters in the first round. That's why nobody remembers that.
This year, the only buzzer beater was Jalen Suggs in the whole tournament. That was the only buzzer beater.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good games. I don't think there's as many buzzer beaters as you think.
Because the over-under on buzzer beaters for the tournament was 1.5, and there was one.
See, the thing is, the first round is played during the day, during work days that not a lot of people get to see. Everybody watched the Final Four game. It's going to be remembered much more than the Bryce Drew one.
I have another question. Is Gonzaga's season a failure?
No,
I think
not for a mid-major like them.
Yes, it
No.
is.
I completely agree with Tyler.
They're not a mid-major anymore. The only thing Mark Few can to further his legacy is win a championship. So
Kyle, if not winning the championship is considered a failure, then LeBron's record comes into play here. Okay, you can't get second place. You can't say one thing getting second place is okay, and another thing getting first place is getting second place is a failure. You can't say that and then argue that LeBron's final record isn't a big deal.
I would guarantee you to say that Mark Few and LeBron James would both tell you every year they didn't win a championship was a failure. Guaranteed.
Their season
they don't
was
settle for second.
Gonzaga was the best team all year. You can't tell me that getting second makes that a great season. They're North Carolina, the year they lost in 16, after a tremendous Marcus Page buzzer or shot with 4 seconds left that no one else could have ever made, and they lost on a buzzer beater Jenkins. That was a failure. This year was a failure
Because
for Gonzaga.
UNC's a blue blood, though. Like,
But Gonzaga was in the
Gonzaga's-
national championship 5 years ago. You just said that.
Gonzaga's blue too, but I guess it depends on who you're asking. If you're asking a fan, if I was a fan of Gonzaga, I would say no. It was a great year. You know, you can't win the championship. You can't expect to win the championship every year. But if you're asking Mark Few and those players, yes, it was a failure. They expected to win.
Well, yeah, it's a failure to the players and the coach, but to your average basketball fans, getting the second best team in the nation is losing in the championship game is not a failure. It's a disappointment. It's a letdown, but it's not a failure. Duke season was a failure. Gonzaga
North
season
Carolina
was
season
not.
was a failure.
Yes, it was.
There's a big
So,
difference between a letdown and a failure.
here's one.
You're a
who was?
failure.
Ooh, sick burn, dude.
Yeah.
Who was the only team to cover against Baylor in the NCAA tournament? 16 seed Hartford was the only team that covered the spread against Baylor. So they played really well. And there was another oddball. So did you guys see this? Kind of trended minorly on Twitter? Houston's practice bubble, they put over the rim. Did you guys see that? It had like 9 bubbles on it, and it was to practice offensive rebounding. But where I think that came back to bite them in the Final Four was they weren't practicing watching the ball go through the hoop, and they just didn't score. But you guys got anything else on either the Final Four or the championship game?
That'll be the end of
Very
college
good.
basketball.
All right, so we're going to set college basketball aside for probably a few months and move on to something that is usually played in the summer. It's warming up outside. This is a great time for this. It is Masters season, so it's always nice. You go from the intensity of Jim Nance in March to the subtle birds chirping, flowers blooming Jim Nance in April. It's perfect time of year. So, Masters talk. Who are your favorites to win the Masters this year and why?
Kyle, I'll let you lead this one off. You're the expert golfer of the group.
Well, my favorites to win the Masters. I'm going to go with 2 maybe kind of obvious ones, and I'm going to throw a sleeper in there. So, Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. I would really love to see. Those guys were childhood friends. They played in tournaments growing up together. We haven't seen them yet kind of duel it out in a major championship. That's coming at some point, and I'm kind of hoping it's this year's Masters. Jordan Spieth has been playing lights out good this year. He's regained his form, and Justin Thomas has just been good for years. So I'm pulling for both them two, and then a sleeper. He's an old guy at 45-1 odds. Sergio Garcia always comes to play at the Masters, and he's been playing well as of lately too. Hasn't played good in the recent majors, but over these last couple months he's been competing, and he always seems to play good at the Masters. So those would be my 3 favorites if I was, which I am putting money on.
I think Justin Thomas is the obvious safe bet. He's good. What he
He's
did last.
one of the obvious safe bets.
Yes.
I'd say one of 3.
And
Dustin
so
Johnson.
if you want to be a lame and take Justin Thomas, then go right ahead. I'm gonna go with, and this took some deep critical thinking. I'm going
Is
with
this your favorite to win it all?
yes.
Not your sleeper, your favorite.
No, this is who if I put money on it tomorrow morning before tee off at 7:30 or whatever in the morning, if I put money on it, it would be Bryson DeChambeau, and here's why. Okay, Augusta is about distance, which he does better than anybody, and the greens are very, very, very hard this year. Which
It's supposed to
Bryson
rain this weekend.
is top 5 in putting on firm grass in the last 24 months. Okay, so he's a good putter on hard surface, on hard grass, and what was my other note? Oh, because of Dustin Johnson's absolute destroyal of the course last year, I feel like the pin placements are going to be very, very difficult this year. So
I got next.
go ahead, mark it down.
All right.
Bryson DeChambeau.
All right, so Cody's relying on Bryson doing Bryson par 67 at Masters, which can happen. But Masters, while some of it is about length and you can shorten the course, if you don't have a good iron game, you ain't winning the Masters. That's how that works. And so Bryson is a very intriguing player to me, and at times is one of my more favorite players to watch because of the scientific approach he takes to it. And could he win the Masters? Absolutely. But he can't fire one off into the magnolia trees and come back and win the Masters. It ain't going to happen. So I would be a little leery betting on him because if the big stick don't work for him, he's screwed.
Does the big stick ever not work for him though?
Well,
Yeah.
when he took the 11 on 17 at whatever, yeah, it didn't work.
And
Hey,
Masters,
Cody, can you play that terrible take sound real quick?
No.
Because
womp,
you
womp,
just said
womp.
you just called me out for picking Justin Thomas, and you picked Bryson DeChambeau.
Who is also
So-
like 11-1 or some stuff like that. So,
Anyways,
all right, my two picks. I have two like legitimate that have real chances to win it. Then I have a dark horse as well. So Spieth is one of my two. He's just coming off the Valero Open win. He always plays well at the Masters, so he's got to be up there. And then something you hear about in golf all the time is so and so had just had a new baby born and they win a tournament. Jon Rahm, who is playing exceptional golf right now, every tournament he's played in this year, his worst finish is tied for 32nd, and everything else is top 13. So he's playing exceptional golf this year, and he just had a kid. So look out for that. They're both 11-1 on Barstool Sportsbook. I looked that up right before this. My dark horse is also a 40-year-old, just a different 40-year-old, Adam Scott. So Adam Scott hasn't missed a cut in over a decade at the Masters, and he's playing pretty well this year. He's been in the gym. He's lengthened his drives, to your point, and he's climbed up the distance off the tee ranking. And he's always been known as a very good second shot player. So being a good second shot player always bodes well for playing at Augusta. So Adam Scott, and I was surprised he's at 70-1. But I think if you're looking for a dark horse, if you're looking for somebody to kind of like this could happen, Adam Scott might sneak into that contention and be kind of like a backdoor finish on Sunday.
Third favorite, Bryson DeChambeau. He's the fourth favorite. Jon Rahm, didn't you just mention him?
Yep.
So we've mentioned the top five. So I'll go with the sixth favorite, Rory McIlroy. I think Rory's going to find his stuff this weekend. He hasn't been Rory of old for a while now, so he's going to find it this weekend, and he's going to give us a victory at Augusta. It's kind of funny that he's talking about DeChambeau, though, because he's been terrible at Augusta. That was one of the things. He was probably the most overvalued odds, is what they said.
Slump buster.
so yeah, Bryson with his driver, you can get in trouble at Augusta real quick. You have to be accurate. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bryson plays it. Is he going to go for the long drives, or is he going to go for a little more control? The thing I'll say about Rory is Rory's really been struggling this year. He actually got a new swing coach a few weeks ago to, try to work out some of that stuff. We'll see if it pays dividends. He's obviously capable. And I think I'd like to see some Rory the old as well. He went on he was giving Tiger a run for a little while, and he kind of fell off like everybody else does.
Yeah, another thing that might be hard for Bryson this week is he's going to try a driver he's never tried on tour before.
Isn't it like 4.5 degrees?
It's a 5.5 degree driver that he's going to tune down to 4.5. And it just got approved by the Golf Association and everything. Like he's been practicing with it for 2 months, but he hasn't ever like truly played with it in a tournament. That is not something you want to do at the Masters. Like you need to go tried and true at the Masters.
That could go I'll tell you guys who's not going to win. Tiger Woods, because he was going 83 and a 45.
Did you see Rory McIlroy went and visited Tiger Woods? And he said it was super impressive to see his room with his 15 majors in it and all that. And he asked Tiger, where's the rest of your trophies for the other 60, 70 wins? And Tiger said, I don't know. How do you just like not know where like 70 trophies are?
Well, when you're that good. I mean, I still have my...
Certainly they're somewhere put away somewhere.
I still have my track medals from like 3rd grade when everyone got a medal for just participating, and yet Tiger's throwing away major trophies. But there's levels to this stuff, as we say.
All right, so there's some Masters picks. We'll definitely probably recap the Masters next week, so be listening for that if you're a golf fan. But the other thing that happened there April 1st was baseball season officially started, baby. Here we go. And cool, man. You trying to play me off? But baseball season officially started, so we wanted to get some picks for division winners out there and possibly a World Series dark horse before the season gets too far away from us. Now, we're probably not going to beat some of these to death because baseball's a long season, as we know.
Too long.
But you shut your mouth. But, we are going to go over some, there is the possibility to have some pretty contentious divisions this year. But we're going to go over some division winners. So I think we're all wearing different teams here. And we'll start in the NL East with our guy in the top right there, the Braves fan. So, Kyler, who do you have winning the NL East this year?
First off, you got to probably say this will arguably be the best division in baseball. The Mets are much improved. Phillies are much improved. The Nationals won a World Series 2 years ago. And the Braves have won 3 straight division titles and only got better. I think you guys know I'm going to pick the Braves. They won it last year. It was a weird year. But they added Charlie Morton. They added Drew Smyly. They bolstered their starting pitching. The only question I have for the Braves is their bullpen. They lost a couple arms in the bullpen, and they've got to figure out how to replace those because there's not going to be any slip ups in this division. And it already feels bad that they started 0-4. Now, they did win the doubleheader today, so they swept the Nationals doubleheader. But with the All-Star game being moved out of Atlanta and the way they started the division, it does concern me a little bit that it just might not be their year. But I'm sticking with them. I still think they're the best team. I'm going with the Braves.
I'm doubling down on that. I took the Braves as well. I think the Nets and the Nationals will both be pretty darn good. I don't know if they'll be good enough to compete with the Braves, but I think the Braves win that by a pretty good amount.
I'm going to be the odd man out here, I have a feeling, because I have a feeling Carl's going to pick the Braves as well. I'm picking the Nationals. That rotation is tough. And when you have a long baseball season, having 5 great pitchers is always a good thing to start with. Great starting pitchers is always a good thing to start with. And they have probably 3 number 1 pitchers at least, honestly, on that rotation. So I'm going with the Nationals.
The Nationals win 78 games this year. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Braves. The Braves are kind of your tried and true right now. Like they're, I would have let you entertain the thought of maybe like the Phillies winning the East or something, but the Braves are going to walk away with it. I'm pretty confident. That's the most confident division I have listed of any of them. So I didn't even write a second team down for the NL East because I really don't think it's that important for them.
I think there's 4 teams that'll definitely compete in that division.
No, you've got 1 team that's going to win it and 3 teams that are competing for a wild card. So
we'll see.
But moving on to the NL Central, this one is also probably more of a toss-up. It's not probably going to feature as good of teams as the NL East, but it's is going to be competitive, just not at as high a win rate. Cody, who do you have winning the NL Central?
So what you said, Carl, about the level of play isn't, the top teams aren't going to be as good as the NL East or the NL West, I don't think. But I think the Cubs will win the division, and I think the Cardinals will get a wild card out of it. I know the Brewers are supposed to be pretty darn good, but I just think it's been the Cubs and Cardinals division for a while now. Other than
it's been the Cardinals division.
Other than who has the most recent World Series? Okay, yeah, I don't know if you remember or not.
Millennium?
But yeah, I think Cubs come out of it. I think Cardinals are, right there with them. It could go either way. And I think the Brewers will be right there in the mix as well.
I think the Cubs have trouble brewing and ownership trying to pay Rizzo, not giving him what he deserves. and you saw the fire sales they were having this offseason. So I think the Cubs are going to take a step back and probably go into a little bit of a rebuilding phase. The Brewers and Cardinals are going to be competitive right up there. The Reds, playing in the division, the Reds are going to be competitive with those other teams and knock them off more than a couple times. But I do see the Cardinals coming out on top of that, probably winning 86, 87 games maybe this year. We'll probably win the NL Central. And that could more than likely be the Brewers too. I'm not super confident in that pick, but since I'm a Cardinals fan, I am going to pick the Cardinals.
So it's funny you say 86, 87 games. I actually had as one of my things I was going to say about this division is there's potentially 4 teams that could win between 75 to 85 games. Like
Yeah.
none of them are going to be great, but there's 4 teams that could be in that range. It could be a very competitive division. I've cheered for the Cardinals my whole life, so I'm kind of a bias in this as well. I'm not as big a Cardinals fan as Carl. As you can see, I wore Royals today, Patrick Mahomes jersey, to have us all 4 different. But I would say the Cardinals. I actually think that the Cubs might finish 4th out of those 4 teams, in my opinion. I think Cardinals, and I think the Reds will finish 2nd, Brewers 3rd, Cubs 4th. But there's 4 teams that are going to be
Pittsburgh
right there.
dead last.
Yeah, Pittsburgh might be the worst team in baseball.
There's definitely no favorite here by look on paper. It's kind of a toss up. I do kind of get the feeling that the Cubs are, they ran their course and they haven't really done anything big to address it. They had that success a few years ago, and you just haven't seen really any splash moves or good prospects come up. The Brewers, I'm going to go with the Brewers just because it's been a little while. They were good in 2018, but Brandon Woodruff, he is an ace on their staff, and Corbin Burns right behind him. They have a good starting staff, and my only question is they led the majors with strikeouts last year. They've got to find a way to put the ball in play, but they did trade for Jackie Bradley Jr. They have maybe the best defensive lineup in the majors. They have 4 Gold Glove winners on their roster. So with that pitching staff and that defense, I'm going to go with the Brewers. And then you can't not mention yet Christian Yelich. He was an MVP for a reason. I'm going with the Brewers.
All right. Then in the NL West, there's a chance that the NL West is competitive up top. I know the Dodgers are coming off a win, and the Dodgers are very good, but the Padres are also very good, and they have a good starting rotation with a couple really good anchor pitchers in there with Snell and Darvish. So the Padres have Fernando Tatis, who's on MVP watch this year and could very well do it as long as he doesn't regress. So the Padres are going to give the Dodgers issues, but I still think the Dodgers come out on that. The Dodgers are a 100+ win team this year. So
yeah,
I pretty much
I don't know how you pick against the Dodgers. They won the World Series last year, even though the Braves had them beat 3-1. But they also added David Price, who opted out of last year due to COVID. They also added Trevor Bauer, who's a top 5 pitcher in the league. So yeah, I don't know how you pick against the Dodgers here.
So this division has 3 of the worst 10 teams in baseball and 2 of the top 5 teams in baseball. I think the Dodgers are probably the best team in baseball going into the season, like Kyler said, coming off a win and adding all of that. I think San Diego, no doubt, will be a wild card team. I just think it's going to be hard to keep up with the Dodgers. I think any other division in baseball, I might be picking San Diego, but the Dodgers are as good as it gets right now in the majors.
And I'll say this: they have the luxury of riding David Price in the regular season, and then just not even putting him on their postseason roster because we all know how he struggles in the playoffs. They're that deep, starting pitching wise.
Dodgers are darn good. But we'll roll on, get some American League action in here. You guys want to start in the East, Central, or West?
I'll just do the same thing we did last time: East, Central, West.
All right, so we'll start in the AL East. So, Kelsey, who you got coming out of the East?
I actually think this division will be better than some people think. You got the Rays, the Jays, the Yankees. I think all 3 of those teams are very good teams. I'm gonna go with the Rays. I'm going to go on a limb and say the Rays win the division. I like the Rays approach recently. I know a lot of people don't like the Rays' modern approach on relievers. I like what they've done. And I think it's going to be something that starts to take over in baseball. Not so much playing your starter 7 innings and going to a setup man and a closer, but relying more on those middle or long relievers. And I think it'll be something that more baseball will begin to do. I've got the Rays winning that division.
But if you remember the last year's World Series, that cost them a game.
It happens.
So, but also the MLB is also implementing rules to kind of prevent some of that too, where a pitcher just can't come in for one player and like all that. So
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of teams will adopt that, because it's kind of, if you think about it from a perspective of the player's mentality. Let's say you get called up in the middle of the season. You've been battling AAA your whole life. This is your shot. You come up, pitch against like 2 guys, and you go back down just because they're cycling through bullpen players like that, and you get a 40-man roster, and you can't pitch the next day. Like that could have been your only shot, and because of this stupid mentality that won't be around in 5 or 10 years, you didn't get it. So I don't know that the whole MLB is going to adopt that, but I do agree that the Rays are going to compete in the AL East, and I do agree that they're going to win the AL East, because the Yankees are far too injury prone, and they have to rely on slugging it out of the ballpark. And if 1 or 2 of those guys go down, they're not winning their division. So.
See, I really thought everyone would take the Yankees and I would be the sole man with the Rays, but I'm taking the Rays too. I just can't bet against them. And like you said, with the Yankees always seem to have problems of some sort. I think the Yankees will be really, really damn good, but I would take the Rays as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the team that probably got improved the most, I think, is the Blue Jays. They signed George Springer. They got, Chatwood and Kirby Yates. I think they improved the most. I don't know if it'll be enough. I do question the Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton, and Aaron Judge. Great hitters, but they are hurt a lot. I'll go with the Yankees. I think they'll win the division, but I do look for the Blue Jays to make some noise in that division this year.
I think keep rolling. Who do you got in the Central, AL Central? Kyler.
In the AL Central, I got the Chicago White Sox. I mean, they have the potential Cy Young Award winner and Lucas Giolito. They've got bats, they've got young talent, but their starting rotation is as deep as anyone's. And they made some noise last year, and they only got better. So I'm going with the White Sox and the Twins finishing a close second due to their powerful lineup. I'll take the pitching over a long season.
Yeah, I hate to be in agreement all the time with everyone, but I have the same exact thing. I think over the course of the season, the Sox will separate themselves, and the Twins will be a potential wild card team to me. But I have the White Sox winning, Twins coming in second.
I think the Twins are the favorite to win the division. That lineup is stacked, and their pitching isn't bad. It's just not as good as the White Sox. I think the Twins are definitely the favorite to win that division. I think the White Sox will probably be battling for a wild card. I think the Twins, though, will run away with the AL Central. Hopefully the Royals are battling for a wild card. That way we've got something to look forward to here in Kansas City in October.
Yeah, keep dreaming.
You got opening day, yeah.
Football.
So, yeah, the White Sox did get better in the offseason, and they were already pretty good. They added La Russa, which nobody has mentioned, and he knows how to coach winning baseball. Granted, he probably has to go to bed at 3:30 p.m., but it is what it is. But the Indians aren't bad either, so that makes the AL Central pretty competitive. If the Indians start taking games off people, like people forget that the White Sox won the division last year, I'm pretty sure, but it was by one game over the
Twins won it.
Twins won it, but it was by one game over the White Sox and the Indians. Like they both tied for second. So, that's a pretty competitive division, and I see it being just as competitive and the winner of the AL Central is probably going to come out an 87-win team about like the winner of the NL Central is going to be. That's just kind of how it works. They kind of beat up on each other all year. And so I don't see anybody running away with it, but I do see the White Sox winning that division mainly because of my La Russa love. Like, as long as he can keep his head out of the bottle and not get a DUI this year, I think he can, lead that team to pretty good success.
The loss of Francisco Lindor to the Indians, I think, is bigger than what I think you'll see that come into play. How are they going to replace him?
But they're still going to be competitive. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're going to take games off the Sox and off the Twins. Anyway, AL East, already did that one. AL West. So, Cody, who do you have out west for the American League?
I have the Angels. After looking at the stats, the previews, everything, I really couldn't really pick my favorite. If I had to put my life savings on it, I just couldn't pick a team. And the Angels, you just got to put your faith in Mike Trout. That's bottom line. It's one man versus the world out there sometimes, but that's who I'm going to pick.
Ohtani is fun to watch, too.
Shohei is the man. Yes, he is the man. Just striking kids out and smacking dingers like it's nothing. But
So I'll take the Houston Cheaters. I think they're definitely the favorite to win this division. I hate to say it. I don't want to.
I refuse to pick them. They're not even a baseball team to me anymore.
They're also
but
not
they're
the
the favorites
favorite.
to win this division.
The Athletics are the favorite to win that division, and I do think they win it. So, they did win it last year. There's fans back in the stadium this year, and I think Houston starts to clue into, hey, we screwed up in 2017, and fans are going to let them know, and that has to eat on you after a season. So they got away with it last year because you couldn't have fans in the seats. They're not getting away with it this year. They're already getting a little frustrated with people throwing things on the field and stuff like that. Like,
was that a blow-up trash can? What was that?
But that's gonna start to wear on you mentally. Like, some of those guys on the Stros weren't there 4 years ago. Like, they had nothing to do with it, but you're still gonna catch heat just because you're on that team.
Yeah.
Every time you get off the bus at an opposing city, every time you go to a hotel room, every time you walk to a restaurant, you're gonna hear it from somebody in that
Part
town.
of it.
So,
And people should make them hear it.
exactly. But I think that cuts them down, and the Athletics are good. So they're sneaky good.
Yeah. I hope the fans keep that up all year. It's quite funny to watch, and like Cody said, they deserve it. So I'm gonna go with the Angels, though. Mark Trout. They're on a little bit better. Mike Trout.
Oh, I thought you said Mark.
I think
might
you did
have.
say Mark
Mike
Trout. Mark Trout, the new sign for the Angels.
I think it's going to rejuvenate him a little bit this year, being on a quality team. And like you said, Ohtani, he reminds me of kind of like Ichiro when he came into the league, except this dude pitches too, so it's that much better. He's fun to watch.
Okay,
Pretty sure Ichiro could have pitched. Have you ever seen any of those videos
Yeah, he had a
of him?
rocket.
Oh my God.
Okay, Kai, I've got to ask though, if you had to pick one person to take, would you take Mark Trout or Joe Boeheim?
Buddy Boeheim.
Gotcha.
All right. So do you guys have a World Series sleeper?
Yeah, someone alluded to it. I'd say it's the Phillies. I mean, they've got a great starting staff, headlined by Aaron Nola, and their lineup is stacked. They have Andrew McCutchen at the top. They got Royce Hoskins. They've got Bryce Harper, who nobody pitches to. They've got JT Realmuto behind them, Gene Segura. They have a stacked lineup, and they improved their bullpen. Number one thing, they improved their bullpen, went out and signed some arms. So I would say the Phillies are a dark horse to win the World Series.
I know it's not really a dark horse because of how good they are, but I'm picking the Padres to finish second in their division. So I can't consider them a favorite, but I think, Kelsey was the one who said they're probably a top 5 team. So I'm taking the Padres. They're really, really good. They're still going to finish second in their division, but they still have just as good a chance of about anybody other than maybe the Dodgers to win it. And then I'm not going to sleep on the White Sox. I think the White Sox have a puncher's chance as a dark horse to win it all.
So maybe this isn't as much of a dark horse as I thought it would be because I mentioned them when we talked about division winners. I don't think anyone picked them, but I had the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays improved a lot, and I think they have a chance to win. And I just assumed everyone would have the Yankees and the Rays both above them in the AL East, so I didn't think anyone would really talk about them. I know Kyler alluded to them a little bit, though. But I think the Blue Jays have a shot, even though I don't think they're going to win their division. They're going to be a tough team this year.
I'm really hoping that this year is the year that some of the cities that kind of get disenfranchised a little bit as baseball cities make it. So, like to Cody's point, the Padres, like I know as a Chiefs fan, we had this hate relationship with San Diego for so long, but I really do like seeing franchises kind of get there, get over that hump and win one, and then you can go back to being quiet. But, you helped your fans out. They just lost their football team. So San Diego, but another team in that boat is the Oakland Athletics. Like I'm telling you all, they're sneaky good. And, that's another city who's kind of been down in the dumps. They also just lost a football team. Like they need something. So yeah, you can make the argument that they had the Warriors, but the Warriors aren't on the same level. So, or it's a different category. Basketball is kind of on its own thing. But
I will not say a negative word about Tatis Jr., but tune in next episode and I'll tell you why I hate his dad.
All right. As always, thank you guys for listening to the 4th and 30 podcast. That's going to wrap us up for us. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Please like and subscribe on all of our social medias. And until next time, be good out there and tell your grandma.